If you're a fan of anime, then seeing humans jump into giant robots and fly off to battle is nothing new. With shows like Gundam or Evangelion, mechs are an easy way for storytellers to set the tone and time period for their shows. We decided to end the Kojima series with a fast-paced, high-action game that, unlike every other game we've covered, actually has nothing to do with his prior work. That game is Zone of the Enders. Released in 2001, Zone of the Enders was originally developed for the PlayStation, but was later modified to be released for the PS2. The developers wanted to make an anime-style game, but with more focus on realism than most other anime. This was accomplished by giving characters a more complicated life, along with a serious story. Director and scenario writer Noriaki Okamura went into this project with the idea to tell the story through non-story sequences. The easiest way to accomplish this was to give the player the ability to destroy buildings, ultimately killing innocent civilians. This small feature gave the player a reason not to fire wildly, and to calculate attacks to reduce the number of civilians killed. How well the player does in protecting civilians can change the ending to the game. Because the game deals with robots, it's expected to have very fast gameplay and a lot of action. They nailed both of these quite well, but only because the fast gameplay is more of an illusion than it seems. To give the player a feeling that they're really controlling a robot, the development team spent a year working on the camera work alone. The amount of time just put into the camera clearly paid off, since the gameplay does feel very intense. This quick-moving camera also helped character designer Nobuyushi Nishimura. He stated that it was quite difficult to design the cast due to having to fit them within the 3D models of the mechs. To get around this and to take advantage of the 3D models, he moved the camera as much as possible while trying to keep the movement more calm during the cutscenes to show off the speed of the mechs during gameplay. There was also an interesting detail to the models that we didn't even notice while playing. We only caught it when going back and watching footage as well as doing research. The pilots actually sit in the crotch area of the mechs. This positioning was created as a joke by mech designer Yoji Shinkawa, which made it into the final version of the game. Going back and watching our gameplay, it's hard to believe that we never caught this because it's very obvious. To help boost sales, a preview demo of Metal Gear Solid 2 was included with every copy of the game. Most people and critics have stated that this felt like a cheap way to increase sales. This was proven when Metal Gear Solid 2 was released and several copies of Zone of the Enders were returned back to the stores. In the Japanese Premium Package Edition, players were also given an hour-long OVA titled Zone of the Enders 2167 Idolo. This OVA is set 5 years before the events of the game, and provides all of the backstory you need in order to fully understand what's going on. Before we're given a chance to see the main menu, we're presented with a short video providing a brief overview of what's happening in the game. After playing Metal Gear Solid, this style of introducing the game is kind of expected. However, we really don't get any context to the story due to a song being played over the video. When we finally make it to the main menu, we're presented with an eerie song that sets a pretty serious tone for the game. After selecting start and choosing your difficulty, we're shown a longer video of the one we were shown in the beginning. This time, however, we're given dialogue to tell us the story. When it comes to the story of this game, it's nothing out of the ordinary. Bad guys are after an object that the good guy has, and the good guy doesn't want to kill but is forced to. The game takes place in 2172, where mankind has colonized the Earth's moon, Mars, and Jupiter's moons. We play as a young boy named Leo Stenbuck, who lives on a colony called Antilia, located on one of Jupiter's moons. A military force known as Bahram has an objective to attack the colony and take 2 advanced mechs, known as orbital frames. The leader of these forces is Officer Viola, and from the beginning video we can tell she likes to play by her own rules. During the attack, Leo sees his friends being killed and runs away to avoid being killed. He makes his way into a hangar where he accidentally falls into an orbital frame named Jeudy. The orbital frame turns on and he fights off Viola. After this fight, the suit's built-in AI, known as Ada, kicks on to inform Leo that there's an incoming message. This message is from a member of the Earth's military force named Elena Weinberg. She informs us that the original pilot of Jeudy must have been killed during the attack, and it's up to us to return the mech to them. As expected, Leo refuses to continue with the mission because he doesn't want to harm people. But to give our character some motivation, Elena explains how doing nothing will kill everyone he knows. This causes Leo to jump into action and fight. Shortly after this exchange, we rescue some civilians, including a good friend of ours, Selvice Klein. Leo then has to make his way around the colony to defeat each of the Bahram commanders. This is until he catches up with Viola again. After an intense fight, Leo has Viola on the ground yet refuses to kill her. He leaves her behind and continues with his journey. At this point, it's almost 100% predictable what's going to happen in the story. It almost feels like there should be a giant twist here to not follow with the traditional story that we've heard time and time again. But we continue on the path that we all expect. After more conversation, you learn that Barium forces are still after Jeudy and are threatening to destroy the colony. Leo obviously is still reluctant on working with the good guys, even though everything is in danger of being destroyed if he does nothing. And at this point, he's killed so many people that it really shouldn't be an issue anymore. As expected, the still alive Viola shoots Selvice, which gives Leo the motivation he needs to continue on with the mission and save the colony. Leo then fights Viola one last time before she is finally killed. When everything is said and done, Selvice is shown still alive and everything ends happily ever after. While watching the beginning cutscenes, you see right away that the graphics look great. As with earlier games like Final Fantasy, we expected that the graphical fidelity during gameplay would be lacking since there was so much put into the cutscenes. However, this just isn't the case. The graphics during gameplay are just as impressive as the cutscenes, and while some environments are very basic in design, the cities and towns look really good for the time period this was released. The music is a simple techno-style track that plays when you're just flying around. However, this music changes based on what you're doing. When entering a fight, you can hear the music getting more intense, and during the sad parts of cutscenes, the music becomes more emotional. The team wanted their music to convey emotions while playing the game, and they definitely accomplished that. There is one downside though, and that has to do with the sound effects. When you're browsing menus, the sounds when selecting an option sound almost identical to Metal Gear Solid. It makes sense to reuse the sound to save time, but with the amount of work already put into this game, having a unique sound for the menus doesn't seem like too much to ask. Zone of the Enders is a hybrid hack-and-slash third-person shooter. This is because of your mech sword, along with an energy projectile as well as many sub-weapons. The goal of the game is pretty simple: travel from area to area, sometimes visiting the same area several times, and destroy enemies, find special codes, or fight a boss. Defeating enemies will give you special items, ammo, or health. Regardless of what item you get, you'll always get experience from killing enemies. As with every game that has experience points, getting enough experience will allow you to level up and make you a bit stronger. As stated earlier, some stages are set in residential areas where you can accidentally shoot a house and kill civilians. This adds another layer to the game. Just running through the game as you normally would and not really caring about how many people you kill will get you the standard ending. Getting an A rank on every SOS mission will get you the best ending. This part is a little disappointing though. The best ending to the game is the exact same scene as the standard ending, except for you get a different song that plays. This almost feels like a slap in the face to anyone who might want to complete the game. Last but not least, if you destroy every building and kill every civilian, you'll get the bad ending. In this scenario, Ada tells you that you killed everyone, and Leo states that he didn't mean to do it. This results in a screen that says "The End," and you have to start from your last checkpoint. When first jumping into this game, it seems very promising and exciting. Learning how to best maneuver your mech and gaining new abilities makes the game fun, for a while. After you collected all of the weapons in the game, it feels like you're doing nothing new. You continually go to a new area that looks a little different from the previous one and fight the same enemies. The only real change in the game is when it comes time for the boss fights, and you have to figure out how to defeat them. Luckily, during the latter half of the game, you're only left with boss fights and cutscenes to get you through to the end. Aside from the nice graphics and decent music, the story is way too predictable and is nothing new. You can easily predict exactly what's going to happen due to it being the same setup we've seen time and time again. On top of that, giving the player a new piece of music to listen to if they 100% the game feels lazy. If you spend a year working on the camera alone, then you could have at least added something cool or a different ending to make it worth it. It's because of these things that we can see why the games were returned by a lot of consumers after Metal Gear Solid 2 came out. While it can be fun for a while, this game does not hold up.